I ate 500 eggs in 30 days just to see what would happen. I also took before and after pictures and got my blood tested. So make sure to stick around until the end to see what happened to my cholesterol levels and how my body responded to eating 500 eggs. Am I gonna die from a heart attack because of clogged arteries? The results might shock you. But first, let me give you some context that's really important to understand all of this. Now, you're probably wondering, wouldn't you build up all this cholesterol in your arteries and die of a heart attack or stroke if you eat that many eggs? It's a very nuanced topic, but the short answer is no. Let me explain. My blood work that I'm gonna share in just a second will corroborate this. Unfortunately, eggs have gotten a bad rap basically since the 80s, the start of the low-fat diet movement, because it's high in cholesterol. So people who wanted to lose weight limited their red meat and egg intake and replaced it with 6 to 11 servings from the bread, cereal, rice, and pasta group. It's that classic food pyramid. Funny enough, that's also the time when the obesity epidemic started in North America. If you're not thriving, the question you should really be asking yourself is, have you been following the wrong information all this time? Because in 6 major clinical studies, it was found that eggs did not increase or was not associated with heart disease in healthy people. Remember that. In fact, there are tremendous benefits when it comes to eating eggs. I mean, an egg contains all the nutrients to create life, making it one of the most nutrient-dense foods on the planet. It's also cheap and accessible for most people. Even if you live in a food desert, like if you go to any grocery store, they'll always have eggs. So why the puzzling push to avoid this cheap and nutrient-dense food? I mean, the general safe recommendation is to eat less than 2 eggs a day. And I just crushed 500 in 30 days. Well, if you dig a little bit deeper, you'll find that any study against eating eggs are really just based on questionnaire or observational studies. People are given food questionnaires as if anybody can remember what they ate a couple of days ago. And if you torture the data enough, you can make correlations about anything, meaning they're not credible studies at all. They're almost laughable. Unfortunately, that's what highly influential entertainment films like the infamous Game Changers, What the Health, or Cowspiracy used for their overreaching health claims. It's a problem because it creates a lot of confusion. They do a great job of pulling your heartstrings and people take those documentaries at face value. How many times do you hear someone say, oh, I stopped eating eggs and meat because I watched Game Changers or What the Health? But all the claims in those documentaries have now been debunked. Just search Game Changers debunked and you'll quickly realize you've been scammed. Unfortunately, the unintended consequence of avoiding nutrient-dense foods high in cholesterol like eggs and red meat is your body isn't getting enough key nutrients, especially high-quality protein, to build and maintain your muscle. Muscle, in case you didn't know, is the key driver of your metabolism. According to this review, the average adult loses half a pound of muscle and puts on 1.5 pounds of fat every year from age 25 to 55. Have you noticed you've been gaining a couple of pounds every year and your clothes are starting to fit tighter and you can't figure out why? You've simply been conditioned to think that red meat and eggs, which humans have been eating for thousands of years, are bad because it's high in cholesterol. And if you're still under the impression that cholesterol is bad, I've got breaking news. In 2015, the US quietly dropped its caution against eating cholesterol-laden food, undoing almost 40 years of government warnings about its consumption. Bet you didn't see that on the news. It was wrongly vilified to begin with because of bad science. Remember those observational studies? Turns out, dietary cholesterol has nothing to do with your body's cholesterol levels. In fact, cholesterol is important for every cellular function in the human body. If cholesterol is so bad for you, why does your own body make its own cholesterol? You would die without it. If you're really worried about clogged arteries, then you need to severely limit your intake of processed sugar, refined grains, and deep-fried food from restaurants. But here's where the much maligned cholesterol gets more interesting. The Minnesota coronary study on 9,000 men and women over 4.5 years found that the more they lowered their cholesterol, the more they died of a heart attack. The Framingham Heart Study found blood cholesterol is not a strong risk factor for coronary heart disease. There is no correlation between dietary cholesterol intake, like eating eggs, and blood cholesterol levels. They looked at different levels of HDL cholesterol as a stratification for LDL and cardiovascular risk. And they found that the people with the highest levels of HDL had essentially no relationship between LDL cholesterol and cardiovascular risk. I want you to remember that when we look at my blood work in just a second. So, now that you know you're not gonna die from eating eggs, let's talk about what makes it a superfood. One egg contains 6 grams of high-quality protein and virtually every single nutrient the human body needs to thrive. It contains hard-to-find nutrients like choline, which can only be found in animal foods, as well as lutein, which are important for eye and brain health, as well as other B vitamins, retinol, vitamin D, vitamin E, vitamin K1, and hard-to-find vitamin K2, as well as anti-inflammatory omega-3 fatty acids. It's basically nature's version of a multivitamin. And most of the nutrients are actually found in the yolk. Imagine that. And if you're not losing weight despite eating less and avoiding foods high in cholesterol like red meat and eggs, that means you're barely getting any protein in your diet. If that's you, that's easily one of the biggest reasons why your weight loss has stalled. The solution then is simple. Prioritize getting adequate and high quality protein. According to the leading protein experts, you need to eat at least 30 grams of high quality protein per meal. By high quality protein, I'm talking about protein from animals and animal products like eggs. I mean, I easily hit that protein target from eating 500 eggs. You can also eat beef, pork, chicken, or seafood because it has the most abundant and bioavailable nutrients, especially all the essential amino acids, to trigger muscle protein synthesis. It's the process of building and maintaining muscle. Eating more protein will also virtually turn off all your cravings because protein is also the most satiating macronutrient. It's also got its thermic effect going for it. 25% of protein calories are spent just digesting it. And research back up eating more protein. This study shows that increasing daily protein intake from 15% to 30% resulted in 440 calories less consumed per day, which led to an average weight loss of 11 pounds in 12 weeks. After eating 500 eggs for 30 days, my body changed in a good way. On top of eating eggs, I also ate ground beef to meet my daily protein requirement, more cholesterol. I also ate white rice, fruit, and some raw honey. I also live an active lifestyle and prioritize my sleep. Now, let's talk about my recent blood work. I'm gonna post the actual chart in a future video, but here's what my doctor told me over the phone. My A1C was normal at 5.3. My fasting blood sugar was also normal at 5.2. For context, half of the US adult population has prediabetes or is fully diabetic. My uric acid was also normal. There goes the myth that high cholesterol foods causes gout. My other biomarkers were also normal like testosterone, blood count, GDP, potassium, ATP, iron, and filtering capacity for my kidney. All normal. I'm also 36 years young and I don't take any hormones or medication. And I feel great. More importantly, I remained insulin sensitive even after eating 500 eggs in 30 days. My fasting insulin is 3. Fasting insulin is actually one of the most important tests you could get because it's one of the best indicators of metabolic health. Yet 99% of doctors don't measure it. For context, the range for fasting insulin is 2.6 all the way up to 24.9. That's a 10-fold difference. Somebody who's massively insulin resistant could have a fasting insulin of 24. And according to the leading experts in metabolic health, you want to stay anywhere between 2 to 6 microunits per milliliter. So having a fasting insulin of 3 means I'm insulin sensitive. Again, my A1C was at 5.3 and my fasting blood sugar was 5.2, well within the normal range. So I remain metabolically healthy even after eating 500 eggs. It's important to mention that because we also live in a society where only 6.8% of American adults have good cardiometabolic health, meaning over 93% of American adults have some form of insulin resistance and metabolic dysfunction. And in case you didn't know, insulin resistance opens up Pandora's box to a lot of disease like diabetes, obesity, and cardiovascular disease. That is the unintended consequence of avoiding saturated fat and cholesterol and replacing it with ultra-processed food. Not a good thing. So now that you know that I remain insulin sensitive, let's talk about my cholesterol. My LDL cholesterol is 4.87 and my HDL is 2.74. For context, normal HDL is below 3.4 and above 1 for HDL. So my LDL, which is often referred to as bad cholesterol, is higher than normal, and my HDL or good cholesterol is also higher than normal. My triglycerides are also low. As with a lot of things, context matters. LDL is not your bad cholesterol. Again, your body makes its own LDL. Why would it make something that's bad? LDL is like a bus that delivers cholesterol to peripheral and liver cells. By the way, if your doctor refers to LDL as bad cholesterol, you need a new doctor, because LDL cholesterol alone does not cause heart disease for metabolically healthy people. So since I'm insulin sensitive and I'm metabolically healthy, I'm not worried about my LDL being high, because my HDL is also high, which is a good thing. Remember that Framingham heart study? My triglyceride to HDL ratio is 1, which are closely associated with various metabolic and vascular diseases. It should be below 2 and mine is 1. If, however, you're insulin resistant, then that LDL conversation changes a little bit. Now, would I recommend eating 500 eggs in 30 days? I mean, you don't need to eat that many. What I recommend is to eat less refined carbs and processed sugar and eat more eggs. Eat 5 eggs a day. And if you want to learn more about that topic, make sure to check out this video. I'll see you there.